Today I want to talk about how we react to difficulty. And now we're living at the time of the coronavirus, and it's stressful for a lot of people. They're worried about the future, their health, their income, their security. And if we look at how we respond to this situation, I think it will shed some light on how we respond to everything. So the question I want to ask you is, when you face difficulty, what is your response mechanism? Or we could call it coping mechanism. Do you just forget it, get absorbed in work or a hobby, don't think about it? Or do you just kind of suppress it so you don't have to deal with it? Do you kind of hide from the world? Do you get angry? Do you fight back? Do you try to help the situation? Do you try to fix it? Do you try to do something? Are you neutral? Are you really upset? There can be a variety of ways in which we react to situations. And the reason I'm asking this question is generally what we find is the way we react to one difficulty is a mechanism we use for reacting to all difficulties. Sometimes some people react to difficulties by trying to find people to blame. Who's the cause of this difficulty? And criticizing them, putting them down, making propaganda against them. That's a coping mechanism. Blaming is a coping mechanism. And if we look at our coping mechanisms and we start to see patterns of behavior in which we respond to all difficulties in a similar way, that's an aha moment. Okay, now I'm getting onto something. There's a certain way that I'm responding. It's not necessarily the situation. It's not necessarily the fault of this person, but it's necessarily the way that I cope and I respond. Now, it's possible that your coping mechanism is healthy. It's possible that it's very Krishna conscious. And if it is, that's a good discovery. And all we can say is keep up the good work. But it's possible if you discover a coping mechanism that's not Krishna consciousness, that perhaps is conditioned by your past upbringing or past lives, it's unhealthy, it's dysfunctional, then we should take note of that. And we should work on healing that, improving that, detaching, in some way learning to respond in better, healthier ways. Now, where this becomes a problem specifically is in relationships. If we have unhealthy coping mechanisms when dealing with people who do things we don't approve of, or do things we don't like, then we create unhealthy relationships where potentially they could be very healthy relationships, and you might not feel that that's a problem, but it is, because as devotees, relationships are very important, and having loving, kind, affectionate, understanding, empathetic relationships is enhancing to our Krishna consciousness, or we could even say necessary, at least with a few people. And if I have a nature where it's difficult for me to have close relationships, it's difficult for me to open up because I don't trust people, or whatever the reason is, that becomes a problem for our Krishna consciousness. And also, if we don't realize our dysfunctional coping mechanisms, if we have them, then there'll be a tendency to blame others for bad relationships, which may in some cases have some truth to it, but in most cases it takes two to tango. So, if you look at how you respond to difficulty, how you respond to stressful situations, and start to see patterns, then you can start to understand that this is a very conditioned response that you more or less universally apply to all situations. And then you should understand it's not the situation, but it's me. So I'm just asking you to look at that. How do you respond to difficult situations? How do you respond to difficult people? How do you respond to stress? How do you respond to situations you can't control? How do you respond to people who don't operate, who don't act the way you would like them to? And see if there's more or less a universal response, and then consider why you react that way. And if you believe that reaction is unhealthy, it's not helpful for you, it's not helpful for your Krishna consciousness, then start to think about what would be a healthier response, and how I would have to change something in me, my attitude, my understanding of myself or other people, how I would have to control something emotionally, control my anger, my tendency for revenge, whatever it may be, so that I could respond in a way that's going to help me become more Krishna conscious, rather than respond in a way that's going to harm my Krishna consciousness. And I think a lot of us, unknown to us, respond in a conditioned way that proves to be harmful to our Krishna consciousness, and we don't really recognize that. We just respond that way naturally, and we've done it so long. It's kind of subconscious, we don't notice it, but ask yourself, are my responses to difficult situations helping me, or are they hurting me? Are they bringing me closer to Krishna, or are they keeping me further away? It's an important question to ask.